In the grim darkness of the far future, hope is extinct. The stars burn for the dead, and faith is the only light that remains. But on Vesalia's prime, for the first time in 10,000 years, the people saw the sky. The smog parted, not by storm but by perfection. A circle of flawless blue opened in the clouds, a wound in the darkness. Through it descended a man wrapped in golden light, cape billowing, eyes burning like suns. The manufactorums fell silent. The ecclesiarchy priests dropped to their knees. Even the servitors paused, their cogitators stuttering in awe. Across the hive, every vox and pick screen flickered to life, carrying a single voice and smooth commanding. Absolute, people of the Imperium, it said. Your savior has come. Billions listened, unable to turn away. The words bypassed fear and spoke straight to the marrow of mankind. I am what your emperor should have been. I am your true protector. Governor Velhack watched from his balcony, trembling as the radiant figure hovered over the hive spires. In the shadowed sanctums below, the Inquisition stirred. Warnings flared through the data crypts. Celestial anomaly detected. Probability of divine mimicry, 94%. And high above the world the stranger smiled, basking in the worship that rose like incense from below. Good, he murmured. Let's begin. Part 1. The Coming of the False Sun. In the grim darkness of the far future there is only war. And now, there is something else. The Cathedral of St. Amalthea was a monument of faith. 10,000 years of devotion encased in black marble and stained glass. 50 battle sisters stood in formation, bolters locked, eyes unwavering. They had fought demons, heretics, Xenos, the endless tide of blasphemies that sought to devour mankind. But nothing could have prepared them for him. From the burning heavens he descended, a radiant figure bathed in sunlight, clad in red and blue, a golden cape fluttering like a relic banner. He hovered above the cathedral's shattered spires, his presence radiating power, confidence, and an unsettling kind of perfection. Your emperor watches? The stranger asked, his tone half curious, half condescending. From where? His rotting throne? The canoness raised her power sword, the weapon humming with divine energy. The Emperor protects, she declared, her voice echoing through the sacred hall. Blasphemy shall not go unanswered. Then came the first shot. Bolters thundered, the air filled with the roar of faith and gunfire. 50 mass reactive shells struck the intruder, detonations bright as holy fire. And when the smoke cleared, he was still floating there, untouched. He smiled. What followed was slaughter. He moved like a blur of divine wrath turned inside out, tearing through ceramite armor, shattering stone, and leaving only ruin in his wake. Faith met its first taste of hopelessness. I am Homelander, he said, his voice carrying over the screams. I am what your emperor pretends to be. And yet, even amid the massacre, one truth became clear. The Imperium would not yield. Even dying, Canoness Amalthea fired her bolt pistol point-blank into his face, her last breath defiant. The Emperor protects even from you. Before he could strike again, the cathedral doors burst open. A voice like thunder cut through the air. Creature, step away from the canoness. From the shadows of the broken nave strode Captain Tiberius of the Ultramarines, a giant of ceramite and gold, plasma pistol in one hand, power fist crackling in the other. Behind him came his squad, the Emperor's Angels of Death. For the first time since crossing into this universe, Homelander hesitated. Something in their presence and their calm, their certainty, unsettled him. These were no ordinary men, and thus began the first true test of his godhood. Plasma met flesh. Power fist met unbreakable skin. The cathedral trembled under forces that could shatter mountains. Homelander bled where a single cut, a single drop, but it was enough, and the Imperium noticed. Part 2. The Golden Judgment. A storm does not announce itself with thunder. It simply breaks the world. Adeptus Custodes Maxime, Apocrypha of Terra. The warp stirred. Not with demonic laughter nor the whisper of chaos, but with something unbound by its laws. A pulse that should not have existed, yet thrived within it. For the first time in an age, the Astronomicon faltered. A golden beacon across 10,000 light-years dimmed, then reignited, its rhythm shaken. Astropaths cried out in agony as their souls brushed against a force alien to the Materium. Across 1,000 worlds, reports poured in. A figure of light descending upon the hive world of Vesalius Prime. His voice echoed across every Vox channel, proclaiming deliverance, mocking the Emperor's silence. Billions heard him and believed. On the throne of Terra, the Emperor did not stir, but those attuned to his will felt the faintest ripple of disquiet. Among the 10,000 who stood guard in his shadow, heads turned imperceptibly and the sacred air trembled. Something unsanctioned had entered his realm. Within the Ordo Hereticus enclave on Vesalius Prime, Inquisitor Kell watched the feeds in silence. The stranger's image filled the hololith, bright, flawless, and utterly self-assured. The Inquisitor's gaunt face reflected the golden light of the projection. "He bleeds the warp," he murmured. "He breathes within it, but he is no demon, no psyker. Nothing I can classify." His acolyte veil bowed her scarred head. "He names himself Homelander." The planetary Vox repeats his message without ceasing. Temples to him rise in the ruins of our cathedrals. The masses adore him. Kell exhaled slowly. The Imperium has endured heresy for 10 millennia, yet I fear this one above all, because he offers them hope. He closed his eyes. "Send word to Terra. The false sun walks among us." Far across the void, deep within the golden halls of the Imperial Palace, the order was received. From the vaults beneath the Eternity Gate came a sound like the turning of the world. The Adeptus Custodes moved. Their Captain General, Aquila Prime, stepped before the throne's shadow and knelt. "Command is understood," he said. "The light of false divinity spreads on Vesalius Prime. We will bring it to silence." Within the hour, the Custodian strike cruiser Auric Spear broke orbit, wrapped in hymns of sanctified fire. 3 gray night vessels of the Ordo Malleus followed, their Geller fields resonating with the fury of faith. Their destination, Vesalius Prime. The planet burned below them. Hive cities lay fractured, half in rebellion, half in worship. From the highest spire of the capital, now renamed Homeland Prime, the being watched the flames. He heard every scream, every whispered prayer. Each one fed something inside him. The strange currents of this galaxy, the warp itself, sang beneath his skin. Power flowed through him in ways he could not explain, and he reveled in it. When the Custodes arrived, the skies ignited. Gold descended through smoke and ash, each landing dropship trailing light like the fall of meteors. Citizens stared upward in awe, believing angels had come to serve their living God. Homelander smiled at the misunderstanding. The first custodian reached the spire, a figure carved of living metal, his presence heavy with sanctity. Aquila Prime advanced across the blackened marble, each step a wordless proclamation of authority. Homelander turned to face him. "You're different," he said, almost admiring. "You look like me, strong, perfect. Maybe you understand what I am." The custodian's voice was steady. "You are nothing we have not seen before." Homelander's eyes narrowed. "You kneel to a corpse. I stand above the stars. You should kneel to me." The air trembled. The two forces met. Light clashed with sanctified metal. Faith confronted arrogance made flesh. The city shook. Windows shattered miles away. Great statues of saints crumbled as shockwaves tore through the hive. For a moment, the illusion of godhood wavered. Homelander felt pain. Rare, alien, exhilarating. His fist struck auramite that refused to yield. The custodian met every blow with perfect precision, every motion a prayer to discipline. Then the stranger's strength surged again, drawn from the billions who worshipped him below. The wound he had taken sealed itself in an instant. He looked at his own unbroken skin, then at the golden warrior before him. "You can't stop me," he said softly. "You can't stop what they believe." Aquila Prime rose from the wreckage of shattered marble and met his gaze without fear. "The Emperor has seen greater beings than you fall silent before his truth. You are only another lie that believes itself eternal." Thunder rolled above the hive. Their conflict became light and shadow, unseen by mortal eyes, yet felt by every soul who prayed that day. In their fear, many turned to Homelander anew, begging for salvation. In their faith, a few clung harder to the Emperor's name. Both acts echoed through the warp, feeding the firestorm growing around them. On Terra, the Emperor's will rippled across the Imperium, a pulse of warning that shook 1,000 psychers to their knees. The order burned itself into every receptive mind as clear as any spoken decree: contain him. Let him not approach the throne. The false sun must not ascend. And so, across the stars, the Imperium prepared for a war unlike any before, not against chaos nor Xenos, but against a mirror of divinity that wore a human face. Part 3. Fire and Faith. The hive world of Vesalius Prime was no longer a planet. It was a wound that bled light. From orbit, its surface flickered with the alternating blaze of devotion and bombardment. Every continent was divided between the banners of the old Imperium and the radiant symbol of a single letter, an H, traced in blood-red light that glowed on the ruins of cathedrals. Homelander's voice ruled the airwaves. His followers called themselves the chosen of the true sky. They marched not for conquest but for adoration. The Adeptus Sororitas fought them street by street. Sister Celestians prayed as they reloaded, their bolters chiming hymns between each burst. Canoness Amala's surviving sisters had joined the 89th Valerian Guard, transforming what was once a procession of penitents into an army of fire, where Homelander's zealots carried banners of a smiling face. The sisters raised torn icons of the Emperor and set them ablaze, declaring that light which does not sanctify must be purged. The war became a scripture written in plasma and ash. From his throne of molten statues in Homeland Prime, Homelander watched the resistance crumble and rebuild in endless cycles. He found a strange pleasure in it. The worship gave him strength. The defiance gave him purpose. He did not yet understand the source of his power, only that this galaxy's invisible tides, its warp, answered to his emotions. When he felt adored, the sky shone blue above the smog. When anger touched him, storms of crimson lightning swept the hives. The world itself seemed to obey the rhythm of his moods. Inquisitor Kell observed the phenomenon from the ruins of the orbital relay. To him it was no miracle but a contagion. Faith inverted, devotion weaponized. He knelt beside the astropathic choir, their eyes burnt white from overuse, and whispered the final orders to his fleet. Every remaining loyal vessel was to form a cordon around the planet. Vesalius Prime would either be reclaimed or erased. Below, Captain Tiberius and his ultramarines advanced through the cratered avenues of Hive Secundus. Their armor was scored and blackened, but their discipline never wavered. Each movement was a prayer, each kill an act of worship. They spoke little, conserving oxygen and faith in equal measure. When the horde broke upon them, the Ultramarines answered with silence and precise fire. Amid the chaos, Homelander appeared, descending as a figure of sunlight among smoke. The ground rippled beneath his landing. Bodies, both faithful and damned, were thrown aside like sand in a gale. He looked upon the towering Astartes with curiosity, as though studying another species of predator. "Your kind fight well," he said, the words calm, almost respectful. "But you fight for a ghost. Why die for dust?" Tiberius did not answer. He raised his plasma pistol and fired. The shot burned a line through the air bright enough to rival daylight. Homelander's hand closed around it. For an instant, energy struggled against flesh and lost. He laughed, the sound carrying through vox channels, through ruins, through the hearts of men. The Astartes charged. They struck like thunder given form. Homelander met them with motion that blurred perception. Armor shattered, ceramite folded, yet the Ultramarines fought on. Every fallen brother was replaced by another, moving as one will. Faith alone kept them standing, and that faith hurt him. For the first time since his arrival, he felt something pressing against his certainty. An idea of loyalty so pure it could not be mocked. In the ruins of the upper spire, Canoness Amala watched the battle unfold through the shattered rose window. She whispered the litanies of fire, and signaled her seraphim to descend. From the heavens rained silver wings and holy promethium. Flames coiled around Homelander's form. The smell of burning incense mixed with charred air. He rose from the fire untouched, his eyes bright with fury. "You think your fire means anything to me?" He opened his arms. The air around him ignited, not with promethium but with light drawn from the warp itself. The flames turned gold, and those who looked upon them felt their own devotion twist into awe. Some fell to their knees and began to praise him even as their armor melted. Amala's voice broke through the din, clear and fierce. "Faith is not yours to command." She raised her sword, its edge glowing with sanctified heat, and leapt from the spire. Her blade met his chest with a sound like a bell struck at the end of the world. For a heartbeat the light dimmed. Homelander stumbled backward, surprise written across perfection. Blood, thin, red, almost human, touched his lip. The sisters roared a battle hymn that shook the city. Bolter spoke again. Tiberius seized the moment, his power fist flaring as he struck. The impact hurled Homelander through the cathedral wall and into the burning streets below. He rose slowly, eyes wide, more astonished than wounded. Then he began to laugh. The sound was neither joy nor rage, it was revelation. He understood at last what this galaxy offered him. A faith that fought back. A worship that would not break easily. An empire that would make his conquest meaningful. Above the smoking horizon, the fleet of Battlefleet Hectorus took position. Orbital lances armed, torpedoes primed, and the hymns of extermination rolled through the void. On the command deck of the flagship Saint Illuminara, Inquisitor Kell whispered the ancient words that sealed a planet's fate. "Let fire cleanse the wound." The order was given. As the first beams fell, the world of Vesalius Prime became a sun, and within that light a figure rose through the storm untouched, burning brighter than the fury that sought to end him. Part 4. The Ascendant. Sky the fire that consumed Vesalius Prime could be seen from neighboring systems. 1,000,000,000 souls vanished in moments. Their screams became part of the warp's endless chorus. For days nothing stirred in orbit but drifting wreckage and the fading glow of the bombardment. Then the silence broke. A transmission pulsed across the void, clear and steady, woven into every frequency from astropathic to voxband. It carried no encryption, no code, only a voice calm and impossible. They burned a world to stop me. But I am still here. The signal came from the ruins themselves. From the heart of the crater that had once been Hive Secundus, light gathered, Slowly the dust parted to reveal him, alive. Ascending through the black clouds, his cape torn but radiant, his eyes two stars of blue fire. Homelander rose from the ashes of annihilation, and the galaxy took notice. Across the segmentum the transmission repeated. On feudal worlds and void stations, on shrine planets and manufactorums, millions heard it. Many dismissed it as heresy. Many more believed. For every soul who died on Vesalius Prime, another began to whisper his name in prayer. He moved through the void unarmored, unprotected, wrapped in his own radiance. The shattered orbital platforms drifted in pieces around him, their servitors and machine spirits dead or driven mad. He extended his hand, and the fragments of one fortress reassembled beneath his will. Metal bent like wax. Engines reignited at his command. He had made his own citadel among the stars. He named it the Skyhold. Inside its reformed hull he stood before the viewport, regarding the stars with a new kind of hunger. He no longer sought to be loved by one world. He sought to be seen by all. This Imperium, this labyrinth of worship, obedience, and fear, was the perfect mirror to reflect his image back 1,000,000,000,000 times over. In the warp, something stirred in response. The Chaos Gods, eternal parasites of faith, felt the distortion ripple through their domains. A new presence, raw and bright, feeding not on despair or corruption but on adoration itself. It was neither demon nor god, yet it threatened both. Slaanesh watched with fascination, Khorne with fury, Tzeentch with calculation. Even the great enemy whispered a question that had not been asked in eons. Could a mortal outshine a god? Inquisitor Kell's fleet limped through the void, broken but not beaten. From the bridge of the Saint Illuminara, he watched the reports unfold. Minor uprisings across 8 systems, cults spreading faster than plague. Each bore the same mark, a perfect circle of blue on a field of red. He knew what it meant. The bombardment had failed. Exterminatus had not ended the heresy, it had anointed it. Homelander had become an idea, and ideas could not be killed by fire. Kell ordered a message to be sent to Terra, marked with the highest cipher of the Ordo Hereticus. Its contents were brief and cold. Subject persists. Phenomenon may represent proto-divine manifestation independent of warp corruption. Recommendation: immediate deployment of the Grey Knights and the Legio Custodes. If they fail, consider invoking the Golden Throne itself. On the distant shrine world of Ophelia VII, the ecclesiarchy debated the heresy for 3 days without pause. Some claimed Homelander was a new saint sent to test their faith. Others demanded crusade. Pilgrims fought pilgrims in the streets as preachers screamed conflicting prophecies from the pulpits. And through it all the same broadcast played. Homelander's voice, soothing, omnipresent, undeniable. He no longer threatened. He comforted. He spoke of safety, of purity, of a humanity freed from fear. He promised strength without the burden of sacrifice. His words reached even into the dreams of children born under imperial banners, reshaping devotion before it could take root. From the Skyhold his power grew. The warp bent gently around him now, no longer a storm but a tide that flowed where he willed. He discovered that with focus he could still its chaos entirely, an impossible act even for the greatest psychers. To the entities of the Immaterium, he was poison and allure at once, a being who denied their nature while feeding their purpose. He reached out further, extending his senses beyond one world, beyond one system. He could feel the Astronomican's steady pulse like a second heart across the galaxy. Somewhere at its center sat the thing they called Emperor. The thought filled him with something close to jealousy. If he rules by fear, Homelander said quietly to the stars, then I will rule by love, and they will love me until the end of time. The lights of 1,000 ships flickered around him, freighters, pilgrim vessels, and even a handful of Imperial patrol craft that had defected. They gathered into a fleet under his banner, each bearing the mark of the sky. He spoke to them directly, his voice transmitted without machine or signal. He told them they were free. They wept as they obeyed. In the depths of the warp, the Emperor's silent awareness turned. The beacon of the Astronomicon faltered again, as if the master of mankind had shifted his attention to the growing echo in the void. For the first time in 10,000 years, some among the Adeptus Custodes believed they felt something like emotion ripple through the throne's golden aura. Whether it was warning or wrath, none could tell. Homelander spread his arms and gazed into the endless dark between stars. All that light, all that silence, it belonged to no one. He could already feel the pulse of new worship rising from worlds he had never touched. Voices calling his name in fear and hope alike. Their faith, their hatred, their awe, all of it was his to claim. He smiled, and the stars themselves seemed to burn a little brighter. Part V, the sky burns, the warp was restless. From every corridor of unreality came a single new rhythm. Not the maddened screams of demons or the whispers of dying stars, but the chant of living mortals, spread across systems like a plague of faith. They spoke one name, and it echoed through the immaterium like thunder under calm seas. Homelander. The skyhold drifted above the lightless planet of Seraphos 9, encircled by a fleet assembled from stolen ships and broken faith. Within its reforged citadel, the air shimmered with energy. He stood before a viewing wall of transparent adamantium, hands clasped behind his back, watching the slow dance of his followers' vessels, a constellation built in his image. Each ship's hull bore the mark of the circle and the crimson sigil. Each captain believed themselves chosen. Each one waited for a word from the man who had survived annihilation. But in the heart of the void something stirred. The Astronomicon's beam flared without warning. A storm of light ripped through the warp's depths, scattering the psychic haze. And through that brilliance came shapes like descending suns. First, the Titan Spear, a custodian battleship the size of a continent, its hull engraved with 10 millennia of oaths. Then, the Misericordia Rex, flagship of the Grey Knights, and behind them, silent as judgment itself, came vessels bearing the sigil of the Inquisition. Inquisitor Kell stood once more at his post, eyes hollow, faith reforged into something colder than steel. He had summoned the greatest instruments of Imperial will. This time there would be no miscalculation. On the bridge of the Titan Spear, golden-armored warriors prepared for descent. They had no need of speeches. Each custodian was purpose-given form. Their leader, Shield Captain Atheon, regarded the data feed of the being they had come to face. Human in shape, energy beyond measure, worshippers without limit. He had read the accounts. Worlds burning, minds bending, devotion spreading like infection. The custodes did not pray. They obeyed. At the same time, the Grey Knights assembled within their drop vaults, chanting wards that bled light from the seams of their armor. They did not fear this creature, but neither did they underestimate him. Their librarians had read the echoes within the warp, a presence that twisted belief itself. A living mirror that made men kneel without chains. Their task was clear: end it, no matter the cost. Homelander turned as alarms shimmered across the Skyhold's inner systems. He heard the faint chorus of Imperial hymns through the void, a sound that irritated him like static in his skull. Outside, his followers scrambled, activating defense batteries, deploying gunships. He raised one hand and the command ceased. "Let them come," he said. "I want them to see what I've built." The first strike hit like divine artillery. Macro cannon fire split the heavens, Boarding pods streaked across the void, bright as meteors. Then silence again, the silence before entry. Custodies breached the outer hull in gold flashes. Grey Knights teleported directly into corridors of steel and light. The battle began without hesitation. Bolter fire thundered in confined space, detonating cultists by the dozen. Psy cannons shrieked against the walls. Every hallway became a hymn of violence, every chamber a monument to devotion and death. Homelander moved through it all untouched, a blur of light and fury, faster than thought. He tore through armored soldiers like paper, his fists leaving streaks of vaporized ceramite. A custodian met him head-on, halberd swinging in an arc bright enough to sear the air. Homelander caught the blade between his palms and broke it with a sound like thunder. The warrior fell without a cry. More came. They always came. And for a time he felt alive. Glorious, unstoppable, adored by the dying eyes that looked upon him even in terror. Then came the Grey Knights. Their psychic presence struck him like a storm. Each one carried the echoes of 1,000 sanctified battles, their armor inscribed with words older than empires. He felt their power trying to pierce him, trying to understand him, and failing. "You don't know what I am," he said, voice rising over the roar of battle. "You think I'm one of your demons. I'm not. I'm better." A chorus of voices answered him in perfect unison. Nothing stands apart from the judgment of man. The chamber shook as they unleashed their combined will. For a moment his golden aura flickered. For the first time, pain, true pain, lanced through his body. Homelander roared, not in fear but outrage. He struck back with heat vision that sliced through sanctified steel. Psychic fire met solar fury, and the skyhold trembled between realities. From orbit, Inquisitor Kell watched as the fortress bloomed with impossible light. Warp currents twisted into knots of silence. Sensors failed. Even the Emperor's beacon dimmed. When the brilliance subsided, the skyhold was gone. In its place, only debris and a sphere of absolute calm, where even the warp refused to touch. No transmissions. No bodies. No sign of Homelander. Some said the Emperor himself had reached out from his throne to end it. Others whispered that Homelander had not died, but transcended, that he had found a way to exist between real and unreal, beyond the reach of gods or men. Centuries later, missionaries traveling through the Seraphos Reach still reported hearing a voice in the static, soft and serene, carried through broken vox and empty stars. "I told you I would protect you." And sometimes, when the skies of dying worlds cleared for the briefest moment, the faithful swore they saw a perfect circle of blue.